So, ladies and gentlemen, we will proceed with the session for today, marking week 3 of market access training, where we shall basically do a recap of what we did last time before getting into the main topic for the day, which is about improving your competitiveness as well as your pricing strategy. So thank you so much for making time once more to come back for this training. I will proceed and start by sharing the screen so that then we could appreciate where we were in the last session before we get started by getting right into the topic for the day. So just hold on, I work on this and share the screen. All right, there we are. The topic for today is about developing the competitiveness of our various businesses, and of course, focusing again on the pricing strategy. As you will actually appreciate, price is one of the marketing mix that actually ends up bringing revenue into the organization. So it is then important for us to perhaps just take a look at the last discussion, and of course a summary of where we have actually been up to the point in time in which we are actually talking about week 3, that then focuses on competitiveness and competitiveness and pricing strategy development. In week number 1, remember we focused on the introduction to the market, going to the market. That was basically, if you can vividly remember, covering the 5 fundamentals of marketing. Then after go-to-market, remember the second week, which was basically last week, we did zero in on the market requirements, both local, domestic, and regional. And we took a bit of some time to speak about the European markets and how we can actually be able to position our products in that great market. We spoke about regulatory requirements. We spoke about commercial requirements. Remember, we're talking about global gap, organic, all these standard certifications. Of course, factoring in the fact that things to do with contaminants level, MRL levels are equally critical if managed very well. That then allows us to get into this market. So those are some of the key issues that we did discuss in our last session. And of course, there are quite a number of assignment for week number 1, assignment for week 2. At the same time, each and every module, as you know, has got quizzes. So all these things have got to be fixed such that by the end of the session, you would then be in a position to mark and be able to award you appropriately based on how you have performed right from the beginning up to where we are. And of course, remember that attendance is equally key. Attendance is also given its own merit. So daily attendance is critical towards ensuring completion of the course. So that's about a recap of what we've actually done along the journey since we started 2 weeks ago. Today, we are in the 3rd week. Sorry for that. So I will start by setting the objective for the session. Objective number 1 is to support you to be able to understand the importance of trade channels as a means to efficiently and profitably take the product from production to consumer, right? The importance of trade channel is actually very critical, because remember, we need the trade channel, we need the efficient trade channel that then we use to ensure that our products reach the final consumer. So objective number 2 will be to help you understand market segmentation so that we allocate resources efficiently to be able to market our product. Remember, segmentation is actually key, because it is actually then that we can actually be able to say, this is the market that we want to target. It is not possible for us to play in all the market segments. So segmentation is actually very key. So we will be able to cover market segmentation. And of course, we will also support you to develop your understanding of the supply chain from the field to the market and the key market actors in the supply chain. Basically building on where we have actually some of the discussion we've had in the past. Development of your understanding of competition. Without appreciating, without understanding the competition, then it becomes very difficult for us to be able to design a competition strategy to enable us to succeed in the market. So really understanding the competition is equally very key. It then gives us a competitive advantage when we are venturing into any given market. Of course, again, development of the understanding of the financial implications of accessing different markets and the impacts on the benefits that actually come with that. Financial implications run from the cost structures that we actually have for our various products. And of course, the final product that we get after doing the costing is actually the price. And it is actually the price that we then use to, present ourselves into the market in a manner that then will make us outwit the competitors in that particular market. Analyzing costs as a means of designing the best pricing strategy, we will actually tell you how to actually be able to frame the cost and also to analyze them. Because if you are so much cost-oriented, then getting into the market becomes very complicated because this is a very dynamic market, and therefore we need to look at some of these things. Then finally, understanding the importance of designing a good pricing strategy, not only based on cost, but also on market conditions and competitions. So these are some of the key highlights that we'll actually be able to cover in today's session. So we welcome you once more and request you to pay much attention so that by the end of this day, you will actually have gotten something that will help you to support your various businesses. So I will start by discussing trade channels and market segments. Remember, in the objectives, we've actually said that we'll discuss the trade channels so that you understand the various trade channels and then be able to ask yourself whether or not you can actually be able to fit in any of these trade channels. But again, the issue of segmentation is key. We have emphasized, and we will continue to emphasize, that you cannot play in all the various market segments. One needs to do a thorough analysis to be able to appreciate which particular market you can actually be having a better competitive advantage compared to the competition out there in the market, right? So we'll go through trade channels and, of course, give you an understanding of market segmentations. Now, the trade channels and the distribution channels can be used interchangeably. But it is important to highlight a few key points of the definition of marketing. That it is a process of creating products and exchanging with others. But we don't just exchange. We exchange at a profit. So that's the basic definition of marketing, if you like. Very, very basic, very, very rudimentary. That you create the product, and this particular product that you have created, you exchange it. But then you don't just exchange it. You exchange it at a profit. Okay? This is where the distribution channel comes in. And we are saying that the distribution channels are independent organizations involved in the process of making product or services available for the consumers. So that is how significant a distribution channel is. You could have done a fantastic product. You could have come up with one of the best products in the market. But without a distribution channel, you will not get into that market. Hence the significance of appreciating the distribution channels, right? Now, in between you as a producer or a manufacturer and the market, there is somebody in between. This person is called the middleman. Some people call him the broker. Some people call him the agent. So the question then follows, is a middleman good or bad? Any answer from the plenary? Any answer from the plenary? Today we are not as many. Middleman, is it a good person or a bad person? Could I kindly just get an answer? Yes, Humphrey. Humphrey, you can talk. Tell us about the middleman. Is it a good person or a bad person? Where is Humphrey? Hello? Humphrey, you can unmute and tell us about the middleman. Well, while Humphrey organizes himself, Christine, are you in the house?
Yes, I'm in the house.
Yes, tell us about the middleman. Is the middleman, who is the middleman in the first place? And is it somebody who's good or bad for your business?
The middleman is the agent that comes in between, say, the farmer and the market. And is it good or bad? From my experience, the middleman has been quite bad because um, he has never paid me what I'm supposed to be paid. Instead of him taking his commission only, he takes his commission as well as my money, my profit, my what I've worked for, and he does not always represent facts properly. Sometimes he will lie to you that your consignment didn't do well, and he doesn't prove that it hasn't done well. So I have worked my way through. The reason I'm doing this course is because I'm trying to eliminate the middleman between myself and the market. Thank you.
Tell me, Christine, it would be very, very interesting to listen to you more. I am looking at your vegetables, right? And you are taking your vegetables to the market. You are saying this is where the middleman is, or the middleman is between the farm and your pack house?
The middleman is between my farm, like for us in Zimbabwe, say when I do my piece for export, when I first started and I used a middleman, now I do it on my own. I would harvest my farm, I would package it ready for export. It would then go to a middleman who had the global gap certifications and this meta and all the licenses that were needed. And then that one then collected a lot of produce from so many farmers. And then, so the product was sold by the middleman to the market. And then the middleman then steals money from the farmer. He gets paid all the money. And he's supposed to pay me every 2 weeks, but he sometimes didn't pay me until after 3 months. And you'd always give excuses and reasons. So the middleman is between me and the market. I'm on the farm, I control the whole chain up to the pack shed. It's me in the pack shed. It's me up to the airport. I deliver my product at the airport. Our middlemen are found at the airport in Harare. That's where they start just taking your product between you and goes to a market.
Quite interesting, Christine. Is there a contract between yourself and this middleman?
Yes, I will have a contract between me and the middleman, and then the middleman will have a contract between the middleman and the market. Or I will have the contract between me and my market, but then I'll then have, they call them agents. They are now the facilitators who do the logistics, the air freight for us while we are producing on the farms and just sending to Harare. Then they start from there, from Harare. They are found in towns, not on farms.
I get the point. So for your case, you want a situation whereby you are dealing with the market directly.
Yes, now I'm dealing with the market directly. But when I started farming, I was dealing with the middleman who then took my product to the market, and he cheated me a lot of times. So, but it's still a long journey for me to get to all the markets that I'm supposed to exhaust. My market competitiveness is not yet 100%. That's why I'm still investing in myself, in understanding more about this marketing and markets, so that logistics, so that I can totally eliminate this middleman.
Okay. I get you loud and clear. Christine. The dynamics in Zimbabwe is completely different from the dynamics in Kenya. Maybe I would invite my colleague Edwin to perhaps explain how the middlemen work in this country. Edwin, please, if you could just give us a brief in terms of how middlemen actually come in.
Here we have different groups of middlemen. You will find the ones between the farm and the packhouse. There's that first group. Farming, meaning if I'm an aggregator, then you will get that there's a group of middlemen who come in and go to the farms direct, collect the produce, and then they bring it to me as an aggregator. Now, even as an aggregator, I can still find middlemen between me and other aggregators, where if maybe I've not gotten enough produce, they're going to, what is it called? Go to Tom and get produce from Tom and tell Tom, Tom is stranded with extra produce and I have less produce. And this middleman has knowledge that Tom does not have where to sell his extra produce, and Edwin is short of produce. So he will also come in and broker this deal and basically get a commission out of it, or basically get a cut out of it. And sometimes they can even steal product. We've seen cases where they steal product, and Christine is right, where sometimes you swindle out of the product. So Tom, in this case, might be swindle of his product, and they will probably tell him Edwin rejected half of it, but they are not going to come back with it. And we've also seen cases where they pick from farmers and they don't pay the farmers because the farmers have no way of knowing where they took it. And they also, most of the brokers in Kenya do not have a fixed office where you are going to find them. So once they take produce from one part of maybe a county or a district or a sub location or whatever it is, then they'll just go with it, and then the farmer is caught up in this mess where they are not paid. And the company also on the other side is sometimes blamed, because if customers get wind that this thing was coming to my company, then they'll be like, that company does not pay. So of course, looking for a recourse. Now, whether to answer Tom's question is, are they good or bad? Depends, because there are some who are genuinely doing the work of bridging the gap between two different information points, where I do not have an idea where I can get a particular good, and there's a gentleman or a lady who knows where this good is in excess or can be found, and I'm in need of it, and there are people who have delivered that quite well. So it's a knife that cuts both ways, I believe. So
I
again,
agree.
not usually, most often than not, it doesn't cut very good.
Mhm.
But once you get the good one, sometimes it works very well. Especially like in the airport, you want to do the clearing services, Christine, in Kenya, and you don't want to run from one office to another to go and get some documentation from a different office. And the airport is quite big, and there are people who you will pay a certain amount, and they'll come back with all the documentation signed, stamped, and all of it done properly. And that brokerage is a good one because it saves you time. It saves you costs because and that is very expensive. While this person, because he's consolidating all documents from Tom, from Christine, Humphrey, and all these guys, then he just charges you. So in that case, then the middleman becomes a very good and a very useful member of the channel of in the channel or in the value chain. Tom.
Yeah, quite interesting, Edwin. Thank you so much for that insight. Humphrey, could you just give us your perception of a middleman in terms of, we have actually listened to Christine, and Christine has actually suffered in the hands of the middleman. And of course, that also encouraged Christine to make a go directly to the market, which I think is a fantastic thing. What is your take, Humphrey? I've seen what you have written in the chat. Middlemen are bad people, but could you just share with us so that we also get to know your experience? Hello, Humphrey, you're muted. Could you just unmute? Humphrey is still muted. Maybe I can help you. Yes, you can proceed, Humphrey. We can see you, but we can't hear you, Humphrey.
Humphrey is saying his microphone is not great. So what he's saying on the chat box The same as the chat box, the middleman is bad man. He eats my profits.
He's eaten your money, he's eaten Christine's money. It's a terrible character. It's a terrible character. Yes, I agree with you people that there should not be somebody in between myself and the business that I operate. But again, we look at it from the perspective of where Edwin has actually put us, that there are instances where, of course, we need a middle person. A middleman who stands in between the producer and the exporter, like Christine, is a very dangerous person that must actually be managed quite carefully. Why? Because outside of undercutting you as the exporter, this person is equally not trained very well to handle your products. Remember, food safety and quality is actually key. And in a situation whereby somebody who is not trained, somebody who doesn't have the expertise to handle these two elements of quality and safety, then we put our consumers at risk. And of course, eventually, he or she doesn't give you value for money. That is the worst case scenario. But in Kenya, some of them have actually been licensed as aggregators or agents who are then in a position to consolidate and be able to supply the exporter with. But the licensed characters then have also to be monitored very closely. Then we have another level of a middle person. I will go back again to Christine. Do you sell, Christine, do you sell directly to the retail chains or you sell to the distributors? Christine, please.
We sell, some of it goes to the distributors, some goes to the retailers. Like some of it goes to Fresh to Go. It goes straight to a shop in London. Right. And another one will go, that will be already packaged in 200-gram pallets. You know, that is going straight to a shop in London from here.
All right.
Then the other one goes in boxes, like 5 kg.
You've lost Christine? Oh my goodness, you've lost Christine. Christine, we've lost you, but you got your point. The point that Christine has given us is that, Edwin, is Christine back? Hello? Hi, Edwin. Is Christine back?
Yeah, Christine has talked, and she's talked about some going to the distributors, some going to the retailers and all that. Oh, you did not get to hear?
Yes, absolutely. What I'm trying to put across is that some go to the distributors, some go to the retailers, which is actually fine. But remember at that level, when you're talking about the distributor, you're actually talking about a middle person. So this is where then another layer of a middle person then adds value. Because remember the supermarkets out there, on a number of occasions, they will not be in a position to take as much, right? So then we give goods to the distributor out there, whether it is in Europe or in the Middle East, then it is actually the distributor who then deals with the various retailers. So in that particular scenario, then a middleman adds value. So it is a double-edged sword that we want to critically analyze. And by the end of the day, we will make a judgment on as whether we need a middleman or not. So let's proceed and see how the scenario then unfolds. Okay, good or bad? That is where we are with the middleman. Number one, middlemen will give us access to new markets. Why? They have been there. They know the market. They understand it. They have the contacts in that particular market. They know the trend. They know when the market is high. They know when the market is low. So that saves us the cost of studying the market, meaning we cede our ability then to get into that market to somebody experienced enough to be able to take us there. So then in this particular scenario, we are talking about somebody who is actually adding value to our various businesses. Again, there are certain specialized services that they have that are likely to be more effective in the business. Their own distribution channel across these markets. In fresh produce markets, we have distributors, say, in a place like Dubai, okay, who can then from Dubai sell the goods to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, and all the Middle East countries. Then we also in Europe we have distributors, say in a place like in the Dutch market in Holland, who can then also be able to give us using their own infrastructure to have our footprint be made possible across the European Union countries, including the UK. Okay, so those are some of the infrastructure that the middleman actually have that we may not be having as individual fashion. Now, as and when we cede, or rather we delegate these activities to the middleman, then that gives us now room to be able to focus into what we actually know best as exporters, as producers, and that enables us to work more efficiently, because the issue of distribution has been now been delegated to somebody else who can actually do it in the most efficient and effective manner. So what we're trying to say here is that always keep on analyzing pros and cons of having middlemen for your product. There are pros and there are cons. So that analysis will then support us in terms of making a decision that to this particular extent, we need a middleman. But at this point in time, we do not need a middleman. Take the case of Christine. Christine is a producer who is actually ready to go to the market. But then somebody else is actually taking her products to the market. But most importantly is that this person is actually based in Harare. Okay, so it is actually possible. And I think the route that Christine took actually saved her business and equally managed to give her a better price, much as she's not spoken a price. But I'm sure the fact that she's actually selling directly, she's actually getting a better price. So that was a lesson learned that we needed to look at critically. But I emphasize that we need to analyze pros and cons of having middlemen before we say they are bad or they are good. Because on a number of occasions, some of them are terrible characters. They'll buy our produce, they'll never pay. They will undercut us. So that is actually very dangerous. And in case of Kenya, particularly in the sector where my sister Christine is, we have a case where a company A has been given a notification not to sell the product, particularly the beans and peas, right? This company has actually been given a notification, but this very same company was actually working with a group of farmers, and he's actually contracted. So a case arises where a middleman then comes to buy produce from these farmers, and remember these farmers are the source of the notification. Then a middleman comes to buy products that have actually been given notification and sells to another exporter who then ships them out and then resulting into another notification. So those are the dangers of having a middleman in between our various trade channels. So I agree with Humphrey, I agree with Christine that a middleman is a very dangerous person. But at the same time, I want to echo what my colleague Edwin has said, that there are certain cases where a middle person actually adds value. And I've also given an example of a situation whereby at the international level, you need somebody with a very good infrastructure. He's called a distributor, but remember, he is a middleman. He stands in between yourself and the final consumer, adding value, making it possible for your produce to be able to reach the final consumer. So do a thorough analysis before we condemn the middle person. Now, the distribution channel functions. This is now focusing more on the role that, quote unquote, a middleman, because the distribution channel is actually also a middleman coming in between your goods and the market. Now, function number one is information. He has got a resource in terms of information that he then leverages to be able to get the products into the market. At the port of Rotterdam in Netherlands, the goods will actually be able to reach Romania. They'll be in Belgium. The goods will actually be able, of course, also to go into UK. Some will even go to as far as Russia before the sanctions are actually put there. So that kind of information, as an exporter, you may not have it. So in a situation like that, you cede authority to somebody else with that information. So that is function number one. Function number two, promotion. The middle person has got the leeway to be able to make your products known across the various market categories that we're talking about. It is them who know Sainsbury, is them who know Ludi. They know all the very big supermarket, and they are able to carry out promotion in these various market segments. So promotion is another function of the middle person. Thirdly, he or she is also coming in with the contact of the various market sources that you may not actually be able to have. And that basically meaning that if, say, today you were to ship out a 40-foot container of, say, beans for Christine's sake, that 40-foot container is not going to only one retail outlet. Because this person has got contacts, he will actually be able to distribute it. Maybe one pallet here, another pallet there. Your container is actually done, and then within a period of maybe 1 week, you are actually paid, and you get the resources to then do another container channel. Function number 4 is matching. Matching what? Matching your products with the various markets, because he or she understands your product specifications. He or she understands your production calendar. He or she is in a position to study the trends and then be able to match your product with the various markets where you want to position a product. Again, he is actually the person negotiating for the various markets because he knows them. He's got the contact. Another function, negotiation. Then he carries out now then physical distribution across the various markets. If at all you are dealing with one person, that container of yours would actually have taken maybe 1 or 2 months. But because we're dealing with somebody who has got an infrastructure to do physical distribution, then it is possible for your goods to be delivered, and within no time you are paid, and in the final analysis you get another order. So those are some of the pros. We have also cases, but very rare cases, where the middle person actually finances your products. I know within my industry, in the fruits, mangoes, avocados, and even vegetables, where the distributors actually give you money upfront. Of course, some do it at a fee. If you do not have the financial muscles, because for agricultural financing is actually a big problem, particularly in the third world countries where all of us belong. So if you get a person who is actually willing to give you upfront financing, then you are at another advantage. You are operating at another level that some of your competitors are actually not going to get. So financing is equally there. But of course, all these things means even the distributor is taking risk, because even you, by the time you're actually supplying, you're actually taking risk. So risk factors are also there that we need actually to also look through and be able to mitigate effectively. So these are some of the functions of the distribution channel. And that is why we are saying that a middleman might be a bad person, but at another level, a middleman does add value to the various businesses that we operate into. Now, I want us to take a look at this chart. It is about the distribution channel levels. Level number 1 is where we have a producer selling directly to the consumer. There are no players there except only the producer and the consumer. Then we move to another level where we have the producer selling to the retailer, and then retailer sells finally to the consumer. At another level, we have the producer still selling to the wholesaler. This wholesaler is a middle person. The wholesaler sells to the retailer, who then sells to the consumer. Moving to another level, the producer to the distributor. Here, the distributor, basically this means it depends on the kind of product we're actually dealing in. For the wholesale, it could as well mean we're talking about a processed. For the distribution, it could as well be talking about fresh. Then the distributor sells to the retailer. The retailer eventually avails the goods to the consumer. And then finally, we have the producer selling to the agent or broker. This is common in my country, my dear brothers and sisters. This is very common here. Producer sells to the agent or broker. This is where I was actually telling you that the agents in Kenya have actually been licensed to operate. And that has actually helped even regulate them, because some of them have actually been requested to have a global gap certification. Some of them have been trained in basic hazard to be able to actually ensure that food safety and quality are actually maintained along the supply chain. So then the agent goes further to sell either to the wholesaler or to the distributor, and then the distributor to the retailer, and then finally the goods reach to the final consumer. Now we have a new name, CoinMax. CoinMax, could you maybe just say hi to ourselves and let us know which of these distribution channel you belong to? Because I believe CoinMax is not your name. Hello? Hello?
Hello. Yeah, this is Maxwell
Oh,
from
this
the
is Maxwell. Okay, Maxwell, proceed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for us, we belong to the producer, wholesaler, retailer, and consumer chain. The level, that channel.
Level number 3.
Yeah, level number 3.
Take us to tell us about your product. I'm sorry, I've just forgotten about your product. Tell us about your product and how it goes through these various channels.
Okay, so we produce healthy snacks. That is freeze-dried mango, pineapple, salsa, and also tomatoes. So we produce, and then we have wholesale shops. We have shops that take it on from us at the wholesale prices and also retail. And then we also have an in-house distribution system, which we deliver doorstep to our customers who order through our e-commerce platforms.
Right. Right. Very, very interesting, Maxwell. Thank you so much for that. Maybe Humphrey, you could perhaps just put on the chat how your distribution channel goes to. As I request Christine to tell us the distribution channel that is relevant to the industry where she is in. Christine, kindly share with us the distribution channel that you could consider relevant to your case.
We are currently doing the producer, we sell to a retailer, then the retailer sells to the consumer. So this is where our peas come from the farm to a shop in London, fruit to go, then they sell to the customer. But then we also have a situation where it goes through a distributor. The distributor then repackages from 5 kg boxes to 500 gram pallets. And then from the distributor, we don't know whether he goes direct to the retailer or he then goes to the consumers. We then don't know what happens to his market. But we also have from the producer to the distributor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. You brought another angle that the distributor then unpacks and packs. Because what I get from you is that the 5 kg pack you're talking about is actually loose. You don't put them in pallets. So it is then the distributor takes them to the pallets and then distribute. Is that correct, Christine?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Whereas mine from the producer to the retailer to the consumer already comes in a punnet. We package punnet in Zimbabwe. And then that is from the producer to the retailer to the consumer. But the one that goes to the distributor, we pack it in boxes.
All right.
Which is loose.
All right. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So here is a situation whereby the middle person or the distributor is actually adding value by unpacking and then repacking to be able to have the goods reach the final retailer, who then is then in a position to sell them out there to the final consumer. So that is value add, which is of course very, very encouraging. Perhaps Humphrey will have written something on the chat box which we will be able to read. I don't know whether, Edwin, you can see if maybe Humphrey has shared with us something on the chat box.
I think Humphrey walked out.
Okay. Yeah, that
he
is
has some internet issues, but he probably joined back.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. We will produce. Sorry, we will proceed. Now, we've listened carefully to the distribution channels and how it actually goes, and the value add that then comes across the various nodes of the value chains in our bid to ensure the goods arrive in its most intended quality and safety to the final consumer. But there is a trend. There is a trend by major corporates in terms of vertical integration. Maxwell, do you have an idea what vertical integration is? Perhaps even by looking at this picture that is here, Maxwell.
I think from the picture, I can say it involves the activities within the distribution chain, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's okay, Maxwell. That is okay. Christine, what would be your understanding of vertical integration, perhaps in reference to the picture that we have, your basic understanding of vertical integration?
I think it's whereby everybody has a role to play in a process.
Right. All right, Christine, thank you. Thank you very much. The aspect of vertical integration is gaining currency, particularly to major players across the value chain, across all the nodes of the value chain. But you need to have the muscles to talk about vertical integration. So what is vertical integration? I will read through what vertical integration is so that we all read from the same script. And I read through. Vertical integration in agriculture, I want to refer specifically to agriculture. Vertical integration in agriculture refers to a business strategy where a single company controls multiple stages of the agricultural production process, from growing of crops or raising livestock to processing, packaging, and distributing the final product. What does it mean? It basically means that you are a producer, you are the transporter, you are the exporter. In the final market, in the destination market, you are the distributor, or you are the main retail segment that the produce are actually getting into. So this has actually been perfected by major corporations globally. It is not meant for the faint-hearted. It is meant for the big players in the market. Looking at this pictorial here, we have the farm where we have the mangoes, and then we have the pack house. So the farm is owned by one corporate entity. Then the farm brings the produce to its own pack house, processes, transports it. Then the very same farm is actually the importer who then takes it across the border for further processing. For our case, if it is say fruits, it's about say ripening. And then after processing, the very same farm starts distribution across to the supermarkets and eventually to the consumer. It has got advantage of ensuring traceability. It has got advantage of ensuring quality, which of course is actually very important. The number of corporations are actually in vertical integration. In my own country, Kenya, we have big corporations like Akuzi doing the same thing. We have got cases of multinational corporations like Del Monte doing the same thing. So I don't know whether by that very definition, Maxwell would have an example of any organization in his country that is vertically integrated. Maxwell. Yes, Maxwell, do you have a case where we have a vertically integrated company that you know of in your own country, or maybe even if not in your own country, anywhere else?
Yeah, so I think in my sector, we have Del Monte. I know of Del Monte that is into juices, concentrates, and a whole lot. Because we deal with fruits, so they control the processing just as you've described, from growing the crops to the final products, adding value to it. And my company, Behima Farms, too, is a clear example because we start from farming. We farm the fruits ourselves. Our farm is Global Gap certified, and then we add value to the fruits into fruit juices and also freeze-dried fruits. And we also distribute it to other companies that need the freeze-dried fruits for maybe further processing, and also to direct consumers for snacking.
Yeah, well stated. Very much well stated, Marcel. Thank you very much. Christine, would you be having any example that you may have in terms of a vertical integrated company based on the explanation I've just shared?
Yes, there's Pro Brands. There are a lot of companies. Walmart, Fresh to Go, Fresh for You.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. So at least now we understand what vertical integration is. Now, because we started slightly late, I think we wouldn't do this exercise because we might end up being time constrained. But the question that you might also think about yourself when you settle down is what are the key factors for a company to decide on vertical integration? So you will think about it at your own free time. What are the key factors for a company to decide on vertical integration? That would actually be important for you because based on the explanation we have actually shared, you will actually then be in a position to ask yourself whether there are certain factors that are so crucial that will then make a company to decide on vertical integration. It would have been a very good exercise for us, but we started slightly late. It might take a while. So we will move on. Still on distribution channels, there are certain considerations that we need to put into consideration before we settle for a given distribution channel. Number one is market considerations. Number two is product considerations. And finally, company considerations. So remember, we are starting from the market. And then we come down to product and then to the company. So these are some of the most important considerations that you need to look at before we settle for any given distribution channel. So let us try and unpack the market considerations, right? The number of potential customers is actually very, very key before we settle onto any distribution channel. Why is the number of potential customers is important? I want to give an example of our own situation in Africa. We have SADC with 340 million people. That's a big market, GDP of 720 US. So that is very huge market that has got a potential, right? Then we have also COMESA, 550 million, GDP of 780 US. So that is how significant number of potential customers is that then informs which particular distribution channel you may want to apply here. And then the geographical market consideration. Is it about domestic, regional, or international market? Those are some of the things that are actually very important. And then the size of the order that you have actually gotten. Then after market consideration, then we move on. After market consideration and appreciate the other factor, which of course is product considerations. So what are these issues we want to talk about? The unit value of a single product, if it was a processed mango or a processed honey that you can actually be able to see here. What is the unit value? There are certain products that are big, but with low price. But there are some that are actually very, very small, but have got a higher unit value. So that is important. Perishability. What is the level of perishability of this particular product? Technical nature of the product. So these are some of the issues we put under product consideration. Okay. Then additional thoughts on market channels. You need to consistently evaluate your channels because they keep on changing. And then if you're working through distributors, there is actually need to motivate distributors. You can motivate them through maybe discounts, through maybe better payment terms so that they can actually be able to take your products. I know, and all of us know that there are certain instances where we have, particularly in fresh produce business, where we talk about, you basically sell to them, they will sell, at a certain price limit, and then any sales beyond that particular price, then you get actually a premium paid to you. So you motivate distributors through some of those things. And of course, the way we design the channel, it is actually about having the final consumer in mind, and then you work backwards to the producer and to the manufacturer. The significance of that is that you first of all be able to understand the market, and then you work backwards, because it is that which the market requires that you will come back to work on as an exporter. And of course, it requires also flexibility. You do not actually close off another offer, because that element of flexibility also makes you stay afloat in any given market. So up to this point in time, if there is any question, before I hand over to Edwin to proceed with the next session. Maxwell, would you be having a question? Can see Christina stepped
No,
up.
sir.
No question, no comment. Okay. Thank you so much. Edwin, I want to believe you will want to share your slide, right? You are muted, Edwin.
Yes, I can share my slides.
Okay, thank you so much, and most welcome, Edwin. All right.
We're going to look at supply chain models. Huh? And supply chain models is basically, I think Tom has talked about it, taken us through it. I hope I'm audible. Tom, if I'm not, let me know.
You are very clear, Edwin. Thank you very much. We are also able to see your screen. And Maxwell has walked out.
So I think we are just the two of us. So this is the question I had earlier. Do we do this training without these people, or what happens? Because this is a very practical part of the training, and I don't think talking through it without the members would be...
No, that would not make sense.
Yes.
That would not...
Give them 2 minutes, see if two will join, but then
sure,
I would rather even we take... Go ahead.
Christine is back. Let me just bring her back. What is happening here? Let me just bring Christine back. Admit. Yeah, we can proceed with Christine.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is she in yet? I can't see her. No,
Yeah,
she's
here. She's here.
All right. So we'll talk about supply chain models, which is basically a continuation of what Tom was talking about. And because we don't have a lot of time, one of the, I think the distribution channels we talked about, even as is almost similar to this supply chain, where there is a grower and a packer, especially within the local and regional setup. A grower and a packer in this case would be the guy who controls the first part of the chain in a context of, let's say, agricultural chain like yourself, Christine, where you grow the monge too, and then you control that. And then the guy who packs will take care of the transport, will take care of every other thing after the value chain. And usually within a local and regional setup, there's planned production where you just plan what you're going to produce throughout the year or throughout the season. Unfortunately, you do not know how much volume is going to be uptaken. So there's a risk of you can produce and no one takes it, or you can produce more than what is needed, or you can produce to your disadvantage less than what is needed. So there's a bit of risk here, especially regionally. Or sometimes you might produce when everybody is producing, and then it means there's a glut in the market. So this one has that sort of risk. But then there is also the ad hoc production, which everybody seems to get involved in, especially on the smaller scale level, where there's really no designated market, but you know, or you've been told there's the market for, let's say, bananas. So you produce with the hope that when that time comes, you can sell. Again, quite risky, and it needs to be planned better. In the terms of risk, you probably realize that this is the riskiest, then the plant production, then where you control the first part and somebody buys it and you're out of it. Or if you go to export side, and you might be aware of this, Christine, there is a vertical integrated. Tom, I think, took us through that one, where the more sort of established organizations have integrated vertically, where they own their own produce, they pack, they own their own freight forwarders, they do their own documentations, and they're probably their own importer on the other side. So it's almost like selling to interrelated parties. Still within the export market, grower, you can be a grower and a packer. You control the first part of the chain only. And the others, you can either lease to other people, clearing and forwarding guys, other partners like Maersk or other logistics providers. And on the other side, the importer takes care of the logistics end of the goods once they reach the other side. There is also the contract production, which is something I tend to encourage. If you can get into contract production where you agree in some of these, what is it called? If you go to some of these trade fairs, you go and agree the crop, the variety, the volume. In your case, if it is Monj 2, is it vanilla? Is it whatever? I don't know which other, I don't know, Kennedy. I don't know which other variety you have in Zimbabwe, but you agree what it is, harvest date, when. In this way, you can even plan yourself. You can even go for financing. It is easier to obtain that financing because they know when this produce is going to be produced and where it's going to be bought and how you're going to be paid and when you're going to be paid. There's also plant production, like we said, in the local, regional sort of market, where, yes, there's a contract for production, but no one is specifying the volume, which is a bit risky. Not a bit, but quite riskier than the contract production, as we had said. Ad hoc production needs no further explanation, no designated market. You produce and hope that somebody will buy. That is crazy. Have you, Christine, as in your growth as an exporter, have you been all of these things or some of these things? Especially, I'm quite interested, especially from number, grower, packer, contract production. Have you been able to secure any contract production from your customers in the UK, for example? Christine? I don't know if is Christine with us or she left.
I think she's still in.
I can see her. I just don't hear her speaking. I don't know if we should continue. Christine, are you with us, or we should continue?
Sorry, go ahead. What did you say?
Now, I was asking you, in all this supply sort of chain, have you been in all this, especially the contract production setup, or for you it has always been you are a grower and you pack and you leave all the other logistics items to either to other parties or to your importer?
Okay, I've done a lot of contract production, and then from contract production, I moved a step up to, actually, I started as a grower or packer only. Then from being a grower packer, I then moved up to contract production. And then from contract production, we are now more vertically integrated. But up to the Harare airport, we don't have an airline yet. But we are hoping someday we'll fly our own crop and be properly vertically integrated.
Because you are in a very good, what is it called? You're in a very good place. More than most people, because most people are actually in the export business in Kenya. Most people are under ad hoc production or plant production, which is quite risky. But going forward, there is something you have to do, and you having gotten all the way to the sort of vertical integration, maybe you can just talk us through probably what sort of the strengths weaknesses, opportunities, and threats you saw, especially in the supply chains that you went through. Let's start when you are Grow and a Packer. What sort of strengths were you seeing there? What sort of weaknesses? Just quickly.
Okay.
You can take us through that.
As a grower packer,
Yeah.
the main strength was
Is it a network issue?
fed to the animals when it's actually not a rejected crop. So that's one thing I've liked about the grower packer. That's been a big the weakness, obviously it is hectic and it is costly because you have to have it's cost a lot of money to have a proper pack shed. You needed more solar backup for energy. You have to step up to we've got our own refrigerated vans. So you now have to have your own refrigerated transport. And then when it gets to the airport, at least the airport has refrigeration and cold rooms that is then taken care of with the help of an agent. So that was the weakness, that it became very capital intensive. Whereas when you're just a contract producer, all you do is produce. All you need is your field, and there's a van that goes around every farm every day to collect whatever you have harvested. Some could even get away without even a simple farm cold room. We only just needed a small farm cold room in case that van didn't come, that truck didn't come the day. And then, the opportunities, the sky's the limit. I went to the Fruit Logistica to Germany, and then I realized, wow, I had 100 hits, 100 people wanted our peas. So then the market is there. There's plenty of market. So that was a huge market opportunity for me in being a grower packer supplier. Then I realized I could actually sell anything to anyone. I just need to understand this more and do it better. The threats, obviously, rejection. We haven't had any rejection yet, but we've had a lot of rejection stories. COVID was a bit of a threat. The volumes were lower. The other COVID year, we didn't even supply anything because we knew we were not going to be in full control of the whole chain. So that was the threat. There's a year we didn't even produce because we knew, because of COVID, we were not going to be in control of the whole chain, because now we are working on being in control of every chain. So you got to be control of everything that happens. So those are the strengths and weaknesses. I don't know if I've answered you right.
No, you've answered. So this is what we were to take you through, though it's supposed to be practical, obviously, when you do your own, and at least you have found what were the strengths in the earlier model, what are the strengths now, what were the weaknesses then, what are some of the weaknesses solved now, what were the opportunities then. Of course, there's more opportunities, like you see, like you talked about Fruit Logistica in Berlin, and there is a fruit attraction in Spain. There are more other exhibitions in Hong Kong, in Italy. I believe it's Mark Fruit and all that. Opportunities abound, but controlling also the supply chain is quite an advantage for you, meaning that you can trace what is going on at any given point, and you're able to, of course, maintain low losses. Like you're talking about contract production, where you're losing almost 30%, not because of anything, but because they are supplied by so many people that they just balance out the rejection. They say, okay, fine, we'll allocate whatever 30% to Christine, the rest to so and so and etc. And we've seen that happen. So at least you've tackled that well. It's something that you should sit down with your team, do it even now actively for this year, see where your strengths are, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And it's something that we can discuss when you come back, but I think you understand that better. There are some success factors where now you've understood the market from the discussion we just had. You've been able to build some relationships from what I'm here. You've had to be flexible in some cases, and you will have to be, and have multiple customers, not rely on a single one. There are cases where a single customer has really, really grown one company. So you'll find one of the companies in Kenya has signed an exclusive agreement with one company in the Netherlands to supply avocados. But a year like last year, where things were not great for Kenyan avocado because of a lot of rain, the customer really suffered because they cannot sell it to somebody else. But when you rely on multiple customers in different regions, they may take category 2, like we were talking last time about the multiple step. I mean, there are many, what do they call, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And these are some of the success factors you can follow. And then now we go to financial planning, where you estimate cost, you set, succeed in the market. And this is something that is sometimes quite challenging. Some people have, what I've seen even before we go into the session, is that I see a lot of people ship a lot of volumes, but at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, they have not made money. It means that there's something wrong with the cost structure, or there's something wrong with the pricing. And pricing here does not mean the lowest price always wins. It sometimes means that you have to get value for the price you're charging. And you must believe in the value you're providing. Like you're saying, people are asking for your piece. You must believe in that value so much so that when you set the price, you're not setting it to, of course, kill yourself and price yourself out of the market, but you're setting it in relation to the value, in relation to the inputs you put in relation to the efforts you put in, so that at the end of this is a business, you are making a profit and a margin. So this is what we are going to look at, and some maybe I've even preempted myself. There are some price fundamentals that we must adhere to. Like price in the marketing mix is the only one that produces revenue, because it is price times quantity that you get the revenue. Again, it could be a marketing decision, like we are saying, but it's a very crucial, and most crucial, if not the most important element of the marketing mix, in my opinion. Pricing is the most flexible variable also in the marketing mix, because there is demand and supply factors. There is a way you can control your costs so that you can price lower than others. There is a way you can have perceptive value so that you price higher than others. There is a way you can sign exclusivity contracts so that you price higher than others. It's very flexible. Quantity, not as much. Other factors, not as much. And if you have questions, you can always ask. And this is what I was talking about. You have to get a balance between the price and the value of what you're providing. Always keep in mind that it's not just about the lowest price. What value are you offering? Also, don't offer, quote unquote, too much value that the market is not willing to pay for. It means that the costs will go way higher than the market is willing to pay for. So you must balance the value and the price. And as more consumers come in and start appreciating the value you're offering, you can up the value and obviously up the price. But there must always be a balance between the price and value of what you're offering. And here we were supposed to do an exercise where you are, but because you're by yourself, I don't know if you can read this. Sorry. Christine, are you able to read this? You don't need to scan it. You can just read it.
Yes.
What does it say? What does it say? So that you just answer.
How do you go to the point of setting the best price for your product?
Yeah, so go ahead and answer, because it's supposed to have been done on the Wood Club. But because you're by yourself, you can just go ahead. Let's have a conversation. How do you go setting up the best price for your product?
I think I will first of all do what I would call a market survey. Just look at what others are paying. And then I would also, this is before I sit down. I just look at what others are paying for the same product. Then I go down and do my costing. Like, what have I put into this production? For me to get 1 kg of peas, how much money have I put in? Then I do the actual costing. Say it works out to be $2. Then I now compare with what I've seen from the market and what my price after costing my diesel, my labor, to put into a kg, my pack shed, my fuel, my diesel. Then then I will then compare with what the market is offering. Then I'll then start playing around with figures up to what is the maximum I can possibly achieve that will still make the market happy and not overprice at the same time. At the same time, be competitive. Thank you. I'm just thinking out loud.
No, for sure. I mean, it's a discussion. Now, my question then goes to, again, my question comes to, do you have a fixed, not a fixed, do you have a margin guidance in mind? Yes, I like the costing. Do you have a margin guidance in mind such that you tell yourself, I cannot go below 20%, 30%, 15%? Or is it something that you do not consider at all?
Yes, I'll look at my break-even price when I do the proper costing. And then when I look at my budgets, then I look at my break-even price. Then I'll say I will not go below this break-even price. Then I'll then look, do I want a 50% profit, or can I achieve 100% profit? Or should I work with 60% profit? Or is it 10% profit?
Of course, as you're doing 10%, you must make sure that you're not outpricing yourself in the market. Like you say, you've done your surveys and you've been able to see what's in the market. So like you're saying, it's a combination of many, many factors. It's not just the costing is great. I have checked the market. They're selling at $4. I must sell at $4. It could be that your costing is what, 3.9. Are you okay with making only 10 cents? Or is it that something in your cost structure is too high? Should you reduce some of the things in the cost structure? I like the fact that you've talked about the break-even price, meaning you have preempted the coming slides. Break-even basically means you've taken care of both your fixed and your variable costs. And now you're saying, fine, if I sell at this price, I'm coming back with the exact same amount of money that I put in per unit. And what I would urge you is the best way to determine the price for your product is break it down per unit. So if it's a unit of a kilogram or a unit of a box or a unit of whatever 100 grams, that's how deep or how granular you must go in your pricing. Because if you make a mistake per unit, what happens is you will multiply that mistake by the number of units you sell. For example, if you miss maybe your diesel cost, you've not included it in your unit costing. It means that for every unit you sell, you're losing that diesel cost you do not factor in. So if it is 10, let's say whatever, 10 cents, you're losing 10 cents times, if you're selling 1 million units, then times 1 million. And that means 100,000 is gone like that. Not because of anything, but because of mistakes in setting up the pricing or the cost. Price, we can talk about price being everything really, but all you do and you should do internally, externally is you have to link it. Remember, we have talked about these things: the cost, the market, the quality. You are talking about the market when you're doing the market surveys. You talk about competition. How have you positioned yourself? Are you the premium brand? Are you the tier 3 brand? We were talking about the tiers the other day in class. You have to be realistic so that you don't go and make 200% margin once and then everybody realizes you probably have priced yourself way out of the market. And I asked you about profitability and you answered quite well. So this is something that you have to have of course, your pricing strategy, which ties to your margin strategy. Okay, so we talk about the cost in relation to price. This is something we've gone through. I like the fact that you talked about break-even price. So for you to get to the break-even, you have to consider both the direct and the indirect costs. So direct costs are related directly to the product, like packaging, like what are they called? Stickers. Basically, the more the units, the more this cost goes up. Indirect costs are not related to the product. They need to be prorated, and this is a part I needed to emphasize, that as you do your unit costing, the indirect costs must be prorated. Sorry for that. For example, electricity, it will be on the entire time at the pack house. Yes. If it is on, sometimes you're not producing, so you need to prorate what goes in and what is not in the product. Sorry. And then we have the fixed versus variable. Another way to look at it is like rent. The rent that you pay the insurance that you pay is fixed, whether you're selling one product or 1 unit or 1 million units. Variable costs on the other side, they vary when the production changes, and most of the variable costs are usually the direct costs. So we can go through the classification of costs, but typically these are the most common ones. And the break-even point, which you talked about and how to calculate it, is very, very interesting. So the definition basically is a level of production at which the costs of production, we have talked about this, equals revenue. So if I was to sell this at $10, that $10 price equals all the costs that I put in the product. So long story short, at that point, the margin is zero. So the cost of production would be the variable cost and the fixed cost, and the price. We are talking about the formula. So P stands for price. You can still hear me? So that I
Yes,
don't
I'm
get into
following.
monologue.
Yes, I'm following.
Good. Then the gross profit margin is just basically the price. The gross profit margin is the price minus the variable cost, not all costs. So if we are to do a business break-even, which you should do both for your product and for your entire business, you'll find that the fixed cost over the gross profit margin. Remember, gross profit margin is the price minus the variable cost. If we go back here. And because, have you ever calculated your break-even cost before? Is it something you're new at, or is it something that you do often, Christy?
I get my accountant to calculate my break-even costs all the time. On all our crops, we know what our break-even price is, but I don't quite know how to calculate it. What exactly is the gross profit margin? Because you said fixed costs over gross profit margin. Maybe you can help me so that I calculate it on my own next time.
Excellent. So gross profit margin is the price of the price you're going to sell this product at, the unit price, let's say the $4, minus the variable costs only. Not the total cost, minus the variable cost. So the break-even point will be the fixed cost divided by the gross profit margin. For example, if the fixed costs are $100 and the price you're going to sell this thing at is going to be $4, I'm just making it up, maybe you can be writing it somewhere, and the variable cost is $2. So 4 minus 2, we have 2 as the denominator, and the numerator is 100, which is a fixed cost. So 100 divided by 2, your break-even point for the business is 50. So you have to either produce 50 units product, and then please remember there is a break-even production, and then there is a break-even price.
What
so
is this business break-even? Sorry, this business break-even.
So how many units can you produce to cover? So for example, I've just given you the 100. Remember the fixed cost was 100?
Yes.
And then gross
fixed
profit
cost,
margin.
What are the fixed costs? What are the fixed costs?
So fixed costs would be things like insurance, things like rent, for example, and salaries for people like yourself, not the guys who are casuals. So for example, your salary is your salary, whether the business is producing 0 boxes or producing 1 million, yes or no?
Yes.
So it means your cost as Christine is fixed. Your salary is fixed. It's a fixed cost. And then if you go to your rent, I don't know if you pay rental expenses to your landlord in the pack house or whatever, or in the warehouse, that rent that you pay, does it reduce because you're producing less or the season has gone down?
No, it doesn't.
It remains exactly the same until next year. If it goes up, it stays like that the whole 12 months, depending on your lease agreement, isn't it? So assuming the total fixed cost, your salary plus the rent, we're just using those 2 items so that we don't make it too complicated. Assuming it adds up to $100, those 2 only. And then we are trying What we will do there in this case is we will take the fixed cost, which is $100. The price for one box of Monch 2 we had talked about was $4.
Yes.
And we had talked about the variable cost per unit, not just variable cost. The variable cost was $2. Up to that point, you okay?
Yes.
So the price minus the variable cost for producing one unit is 2. Yes?
And what were our variable costs again?
The variable costs are things that are used to produce the actual product. I'll give you an example. You know the boxes that you use to pack your produce in?
Yes.
They are variable because if you only have orders for 20 boxes, you're not going to use 1,000.
Yes.
The cost goes up with the number that you produce. Also, the other variable cost would be things like the number of, let's say, staff members you need, direct labor that you need to employ on a particular day for producing, let's say, whatever, 50, 100 boxes, 200 boxes. That labor force changes with the amount of order that you have. That labor force is not like you, whose salary is paid regardless of whether there are sales or no sales. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you find that when you're doing your costing, and maybe check this with the accountant if he includes them, there is something called direct labor. This direct labor is determined by the amount you need to produce for a particular order. And usually when that order goes down, that number of people or the amount you need to pay goes down. If the order becomes too big or bigger, then the number of people you need to hire are more, and then you will have more people. So that way, the cost fluctuates by the amount of units you need to produce. And you'll find that if, let's say today, let me take you back. The beauty is we are just conversing, the two of us, and then somebody else has joined the call. If you want to produce 100 boxes, you need, let's say, 20 staff members. These 20 staff members, their cost is $100, just for ease of calculation. It means your variable cost at that point will be 100 divided by 100, which is $1 per box of direct labor. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
But imagine a situation where these 100 people only produced 50 boxes. What will happen? Suddenly, your variable cost will be 100 divided by 50, meaning your variable cost has shot up by another $1 per unit.
To 2.
So it means it's costlier. So that's why whenever this brings out the issue of efficiency. And if you do this exercise every time, even with your accountant, you will be able, and I can stay here the whole day because this is where the make or break, and as we were saying, price is the key thing in the marketing mix. What happens is when your accountant is doing, or when your production team is doing the production planning in the pack house, and they need to hire, like, let's say, direct labor, and this direct labor is tied to the number or the amount of order that you have at that particular point, then you must be very careful so that you don't hire too many people or hire too less people. That way you can maintain the variable cost per box or per unit of whatever you're producing. And the way we do it, I'll give you an example, is we have estimated over time, obviously, that one person can work on 70 kilograms or 70 kilograms net of Monch 2 in a shift of 8 hours. One person. That one person can only work on 60 kilograms of, let's say, French beans top and bottom in the same amount of shift. So when I'm hiring for, let's say, Monch 2, I will hire less people. But when I'm hiring for French beans, in our case, I will hire more people because I will need them to finish within the 8 hours. Because anytime you pass the 8 hours, it's an extra shift, and you might need to pay people extra money for probably another just 1 hour only. and then efficiency is lost. So this is where you must be very efficient with the direct and indirect costs, or fixed and variable costs. I don't know if it makes sense. And if you have a question, please don't hesitate. This is where things either go south or go very well for you. Any question up to that point? Christine, are you with us? No, Christine has left, unfortunately. Welcome, Dara. We were just talking
Thank
about
you.
break-even. We were talking about break-even points. Are you familiar with break-even? I think I took you through the class some time back. Are you
Yes.
familiar with the break-even point?
Very well so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did that class 2 years. Was it 2 years ago? And I
Yeah, I
think you
think
mastered it quite well.
yeah, very well. Yeah. That's true.
Welcome back to this one. So I was taking Christine through it, but we can go through it when she comes back.
This is
You're still familiar
Daracletus,
with the
or is it Daracletus?
Yes,
Yes,
this is
yes.
direct letters, yeah.
Okay. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Sorry
Uh,
I've been joined for a while. I'm just on a trip in the US, so it's been a bit the timing
Okay.
has been a bit of a challenge, yeah.
Not a problem, but what you can do, you can watch this thing anytime you want. It's available.
Okay, thank you.
But not to take too much time, because I can see we only have 18 minutes to go. We can always look at if you have a question, you can always reach out on this issue of break-even point, because I saw it generated quite a bit of discussions there. So there's some common errors that we see when doing this pricing. You can still see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so if it is not too cost-oriented, as I was telling Christine, then it means you're going to miss some costs. And if you miss some costs, you're going to be multiplying that with the number of units that you sell, especially if your unit costing is not good, chances are you're going to be getting losses that you're not aware where they're coming from. Prices that are not revised often, you need to be revising them often to reflect the market changes. Pricing that does not take the rest of the marketing mix strategy into account, it cannot be independent. It must take a lot of other factors in place. And sometimes you need to price as a basket of goods, not just one item. Because sometimes at a whole order, you might find that there is an item that is really not even breaking even. But for the sake of the entire order, the rest are making margins that are able to cover probably this one that is not making a profit. Prices do not vary enough for different market and situations. Different markets, different situations have different pricing. There is no way in Corona the price of ginger was going to be the same as the price of ginger now. And we've seen how that price has really dropped after Corona was eliminated, or Corona was contained. I don't know whether it was eliminated. Obviously, pricing, you have to give your quotation, which will typically include the product characteristics, the date. You have to get a written acceptance by the buyer. It's very difficult in our export market. But I don't know about you, Dara, if you've been able to do this, getting written acceptance by the buyer.
Yes, I'm working on that.
Great, and that is excellent, because most people don't get the written acceptance of the buyer when you're doing your quotation. And then you can have what is called the contract of sale, which is the fixed price. We've agreed on this price, clear to both parties, what we are going to sell at, no stories, no fluctuation. This usually gives you a lot of security, but it is very difficult to get in Europe. And usually they'll give you the lowest price, again, to protect themselves. And on your side, not very protected, you're left exposed, much as is very secure. Low risk, low return, basically. We have only 15 minutes developing competitive advantage. Tom, do you think we should go through this one, or this is where we should start in the next session? Because I don't think we have enough time to go through it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing us doing this. Reason being that, of course, Cletus has just joined us, and it might not
He
really,
may not follow.
it might not flow. So we might perhaps put a halt to it and basically then thereafter share the exercise that should be done. We can share the exercise that should be presented on Thursday when we resume. Yeah, so that would be actually my input.
Let us, because you joined us, what we would encourage you to do is fill out your competitive analysis framework,
Okay.
which is what you see on the screen. And we'll share it with the others, of course. If you can take a screenshot. This is also available in Moodle platform, by the way. What we have here is exactly available in the Moodle platform under module 3. So you can go, you will find it there, but you can also take a screenshot. Basically, you will check the company specific details of your competitor.
Okay.
And you will check some of the target customer messaging of your competitor. There are many websites where you can check that. There are many other ways of finding out what the competitor is doing that are legal. Then you will check the product specific characteristics. Product specific would be things like pricing, what promotion are they doing, what is their product strength, what is their weaknesses, what is the customer reviews. Nowadays, you have a lot of online where you can do that. And there is, of course, target customers. You'll have to check what the messaging looks like, the advertisements. If you go to company specific, you'll have to check when was it founded, who are their customers, number of customers, if you can find out what their strengths and their weaknesses. But before you do that, obviously you'll need to watch the video for this session and try to get this material in Moodle and read it so that you are able to capture that. And you'll be able to understand it better than if you just, go in and you start doing the assignment.
All right.
And I think when you do that, you should be okay. We will not give any other exercise. The only other thing we'll urge you to do is go and check if your unit costing for whatever product you're selling, as the units that you're selling, go and check that your unit costing is done properly, that there is no error in the unit costing, not in the overall cost, in the unit costing. So if you're selling, let's say, one box of chili, is the costing of that box of chili captured correctly?
Okay.
And you can be the one to share with us in the next class as we start. And I think other than that, you go back to the Moodle platform, you know the drill. Please go read through, go mark the sections that you've done, do the assignments, because this again will also affect the grading at the end and also affect the issuance of the certificate and all that. And because you know that, and I think we've worked before, so go and do that because it will be useful. And this market access training is not a tick the box exercise. It's a practical exercise that helps you in the business that you do today. And I even use some of these things myself. It's not like I train it and then I leave it. I go and check what is going on. Like what is on my screen is something that I do once in a while to check, okay, where are we positioned? What is the competition doing? What can we do better and all that?
Yeah. Okay. Very well.
All right,
I'll do that.
Tom, do you have anything for letters?
Not much. I would just basically welcome creators back and really appreciate the time you actually put in. Unfortunately, we are not in a position to proceed. And again, I think where we have actually reached, we should then be able to share this assignment with our colleagues to see if they can, on Thursday, come up with something as a part of this training, and again, encourage them to go through the video recording to be able to appreciate more. So I don't think there is much to be said at this point in time. Edwin, I think we can call it a day and then organize for the Thursday session.
Yes, for the Thursday session, this assignment we'll start with, and of course we'll continue from there, from where we left off, and go into the exercises as well.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Why not?
All right.
Thank you
very much.
for coming in. Hope to see you on Thursday.
Very well.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you, Mr. Edwin and Tom.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
Yeah.